Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with RCGroups.com. Today we're with Tom Hunt. What is happening, Tom?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good, Jim. And I see you're pretty good too.
Yes, sir. And if you don't know why we're here, Neat Fair 2024. Now, do we call it the Neat Fair or is it just neat now?
It's still the Neat Fair. To those that go regularly, it's called Neat Week.
Neat week. Okay.
Yeah, because it's more than really just the days that I applied for at the AMA, which is just Thursday through Sunday. But so many guys come so early that it becomes basically an entire week. And for some, even more.
So this is an event in the Catskills, and what we're going to do today is give you a tiny bit of history on the Neat Fair, and then also talk about all the things you might need to know if you're planning on going, and if you've never been, tell you why you probably might want to get up there. So, Tom, when did it start?
Well, it was just short of 25 years ago. I was a young pup of 41 years old. I had been going to the KRC meet in Pennsylvania, and it originally started in the Quakerstown area and then moved to Allentown in the last few years. And in 1999, the KRC show folded. And it's not such a bad thing it did, not because we created a new show, but in 1999, a hurricane came up the coast and would have wiped them out.
Wow.
But they decided in March of 1999 that they were not going to do the show anymore. And they notified some of the guys that personally notified me because they knew that our club was one of the largest clubs to go to KRC. Other than the KRC members, the Silent Electric Flyers of Long Island, which we call C-Fly, who run the Neat Fair, was the largest group at KRC. We had 20 to 24 people there regularly every year out of 200. So we were like 10% of the entire membership at KRC. So it was kind of natural when they decided they weren't going to do it anymore that we pick it up. So in the long and short of it is that I asked my club, do we want to do this? Because it was awful that they took their ball and ran home and created one of the nicest shows that we had ever seen, especially for electrics. And they said, let's try and do this. And the first question out of everybody's mouth is, where are we going to hold it? I said, yeah, well, we can't hold it on Long Island. Nobody will come. It's not easy to get on Long Island. It's expensive on Long Island, even if we had the logistics. So a fairly long process to find a place to hold the Neat Fair started in earnest in the summer of 1999. And by the end of 1999, we had sorted out that we were going to hold it where it is today. It was not an easy process. Joe Beshar, God rest his soul, was the AMA field coordinator at the time, and he lived in New Jersey, and I knew him from KRC. He was a B-17 pilot during World War II. And he kind of clued me into this place, this Neat Fair. He had a friend that had a seasonal campsite at the campsite at Peaceful Valley, and he decided that that this might be a good place. So Bob Aberley and I went up on a cold December day and a little bit of the snow, and we met the owner, Arnold Banker, and we made an agreement right then and there to run the Neat Fair starting in 2000.
Now, did you test fly? Because I have flown there, and you're surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
And so, did you put one in the air?
I brought an airplane up with me. Yep. Wasn't a very big airplane, but when we saw how big the field was, nominally 700 foot wide and 2,200 feet long. Of course, it narrows at each end, but we said, well, God, this is the only place in this part of the country that you can find a place that's big. It's all woods, so it was very interesting that we found this place that way, and it was suitable. I mean, first of all, it's at a campsite, so it has logistics. It's only 2.5 hours from New York City, and with close to 80 million people within 500 miles of New York City in the United States, if you can't make a show, and of course, we had the Ram show, which was an indoor show, and that went on for 50 some odd years. I'm now in my 25th when I run it this year, God knows I'll never run it 50 years. It won't be that old. But if you can't run a big show in the Northeast with that many people, there's got to be something wrong. So,
And there's a quaint little town right outside where the field is. What's the name of that? I forget now.
The little town it's actually in is a little village called Shinhopple.
Okay.
And the next biggest town closest to it is Downsville, which is
Downsville.
the postal. Yeah, that's the postal area is Downsville. And that's at the base of the Patapsco Reservoir, which holds a lot of water for New York City. They pipe it down in New York City from there. Yeah, it's in the Catskills. There are a number of campsites in the area. And there are less now because of a great flood in 2004 wiped some of them out.
So let's talk about that just because it was quite a thing. I was there for that.
Oh, wow.
And the whole town flooded, one. And then
Yeah.
when we got to the camp, Mike Glass, RIP, one of the originators of foamy airplanes, had pulled our trailer up because the whole campground was flooding. Now, I have a memory of coffins and a fire truck with its
Yep.
lights on floating down the river.
Yeah, and campers, and they were bent around trees. If they got far enough down, if there were islands in the middle of the river, there were campers that ended up folded literally around the trees. We saw driving home, we saw a lot of that. We would see frames of campers with no campers because the frame's a little bit
ripped off.
sturdier than the
Right.
sheet metal walls. But yes, that was 2004. That was Ivan, and I made a T-shirt for it. I'm sorry I don't have one here to show everybody, but I made a T-shirt the next year in 2005 when we returned that showed a guy holding on to his transmitter in his airplane surfing down the Delaware River.
That's awesome.
Getting out of harm's way.
So how many pilots do you usually have a year down there?
I would say since our heyday, which was around 400, we've come down to the 275 to 300 level, pretty steady through the late teens. When COVID hit us, obviously that hit a lot of guys. Now, we did have our show during COVID because the state said we could. We were only 200 at that time, but we have rebounded to around 260 since COVID. And I'm hoping with this 25 year that some guys will come back.
Right.
But, it is an old hobby, and we lose guys probably faster than we get new ones in this day and age. You don't see as many young kids coming in, although I have to say, I have probably seen at least this many kids grow up at Neat Fair.
Right.
They came in 2000. They were millennial, maybe they were 4, 5, 6 years old in 2000 or a little later. And now they're past college. They're having kids of their own 25 years later. There are still families that come with their now grown up kids who may or may not have started kids of their own. So it's a great thing to see, having a show that long to be able to see the progression and the desire for so many people to commit to a show beyond the people that run it. I mean, obviously I've had great workers over the years, and they've come and gone too because of either moving away or obviously passing on us. But I've attracted more people to the club, and I've attracted more people to help me with the show. We never forget those people that helped us, and we never forget those people that continue to help me. And we have a lot of help outside the club to do the show also. Of course, guys that come regularly every year, they want the show to succeed, so they help me run the show. Do the ancillary things, the things that I can get just about anybody with airplane knowledge to do for me. Man the flight lines and help around corralling the cats.
Right.
So,
for everyone watching. Below will be a link that'll go to a full feature article, and in that we'll have show dates, all the information that Tom wants you to know. I'm going to jump right here on RC Groups and our Aircraft General RC Flight events. We have a Neat Fair or Neat 2024, and this is where you can find all the information as it comes in. And speaking of people supporting the event that don't actually work for the event, I put this up last week. It is the Battle of the Tents, And I think it really gives a flavor as to this isn't just like a line of tents with guys very calmly flying airplanes. This is a tent competition. And when did this start? How long has this been going on?
The tent competition is probably going on at least 5 years or so. It's not so. It kind of evolved. It kind of just became a friendly competition between a couple of tents, and then it grew to 3 and 4. This year we may have as many as 5. The competition is very laid back and kind of like, who can outdo the craziest kinds of things, and you score basically points for doing very interesting things. It's a subjective scale, and I don't mind it at all. It's really, as far as I'm concerned, it's only value added to the show.
Right.
So yeah, the pig barbecue was one year. That was great. We've had turkey barbecues and turkey dippings and all sorts of great things that happen. And again, it happens because the show was more than just, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when Sunday really is a bug out day.
Right.
It kind of starts the weekend before for me for setup, transforming this, basically this campsite into a model airplane field with the help of my guys. And it starts with those guys that are not going to excuse me for forget the big show in at the airport, the rock.
Yeah.
The model airplane show in not upstate New York, but on the Hudson, where they have their full-scale old-time airplanes. Why is this escaping me? It begins with an R.
But they're not going to that show. They're going to this show.
Well, no, some guys do. They go to both shows.
Okay.
They go there first for Saturday and Sunday, or actually Friday and Saturday. And then sometime on Sunday, they bug out and they drive another hour and a half to me, and they stay the rest of the week at our show. But it's old Rhinebeck.
That's it.
I know begin with an R. It's the Rhinebeck show. Okay, the Rhinebeck show is the weekend after Labor Day weekend, and we're technically the entire week starting that weekend, going into the next weekend.
Got it.
But yeah, there are guys that go to old Rhinebeck first. Maybe a dozen guys. Not all of them fly, but they go and they probably camp out there, and then they pick up their tents. They're like a MASH unit, and they fly over to my place,
Right.
And they go and stay there. And then there are guys that don't go to Rhinebeck that come up to the show as early as the weekend before, and some even a few days before that. I've been there on Saturday, and I've talked to guys that have been there, since maybe midweek before.
Because I can get a camping spot.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
sure. So tell us the dates that it's happening this year.
Okay, so this year, the official dates are September 12th through the 15th. That's Thursday through Sunday, I'm sorry. I arrive on Saturday the 7th and whip my guys into submission, and we get the main concern on the first day or the second day, if it's raining too hard, is I have 36 circus tents. Last year I had 1,175 feet of tents.
Wow. And do they put those up for you, or do you have
I'm not putting them up, but I have to lay them all out. I have to put markers in the ground. I have to make signs and tell these guys, because the guys from the company from Morris Tent who come down and do this, they come down with 2, 3, 4 trucks carrying everything, and 10 or 12 guys, and they spend all day from 10 o'clock in the morning when they get there till about 6 o'clock at night setting up these 36 or so tents. Some of them are vendor tents, and but most of them are flight line tents that clubs or organizations. And that's kind of the greatest thing that's happened over the years, is that, the pop-ups, the 10-foot pop-ups have gone away.
Right.
And guys that used to have 10-foot pop-ups next to another guy with 10-foot pop-up, and they kind of got there at the same time every year. They didn't really know they didn't know each other in the beginning. Now they're sharing a tent. Now they're sharing a big tent. So you've got not just club associations having tents, and we have real clubs that rent tents. We have the Staten Island guys, Connecticut guys. There are actually two groups in Connecticut, and then there's the pickup guys, the guys that just pick up from that have met each other over the years and say, hey, why don't we get a tent from Tom too? This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Somebody comes and puts it up. We don't have to worry about it. It'll handle some very severe weather that our 10-foot tents are not going to, even if we tie them all together and lash them down and put flotation devices on them, God forbid if it floods. And then they walk away from it and somebody comes and picks it up and takes it away. So, yes, it's grown tremendously over the year. I mean, I started with 3 or 4 tents, and then not including the vendor tents and my own headquarters tent. And then it grew to 10 tents the next year, and then 12 and 15, and now 30. And then the last couple of years, it's gotten even bigger. So, yes, it is for the loaner to come and find a spot on the flight line. They're going to be a little ways away. They're probably going to be from Show Center. They're probably going to be a good football field or more away from Show Center, because that's what's left of it is available after we put up all these huge tents. But I always said that, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit from KRC. We learned, meaning us, the Silent Electric Flyers, learned a lot about what we did not want to do at NEAT Fair from KRC. And the first thing we learned was, although vendors are important, they cannot be held over the top of the pilots. You cannot cater to the vendors if you want the pilots to keep coming back.
Right. So
we decided that the show was about flying. It's about the pilots and the vendors. If they'd like to come, great, come on down. But you're going to be kind of second fiddle. I'll do whatever I can for you. I'll try and accommodate whatever you can. So we ended up over time, we had vendors and pilots all on the same line with vendors interspersed. But as we got more and more vendors, it became clear I had to separate the pilots from the vendors. So the front line became all pilots and the back line became all vendors. And in my heyday, I had 50 vendors. I had probably a good 1,1700 feet worth of vendors. The 90% of them were model airplane guys, but I had other people. I had arts and crafts people coming that were local in the area. I had sunglass guy. I had knick-knack guy. They kind of all went away, and we're just down to really model airplane guys and typically local stuff. We're not attracting people from very far away. Once in a while, high tech will come, and it had been like every other year sometimes, and we do attract some of the other bigger vendors, but right now my biggest vendor that comes regularly is Hobby King, because they are actually local in New York, and I have an affiliation with them.
Well, let's talk about Hobby King a little bit. Oh, I have a vendor question. Do you still do vendor demos, or are there no demos at this point?
Yes. In fact, this year, the demos at noontime will be kind of exclusively to vendors if they want, because we're going to have a nostalgia contest this year.
I saw that.
Yeah, you'll see in the list that we're going to run a nostalgia contest where we've decided that people who either, if they want to build a brand new airplane, that's fine, but the airplane must have been kitted, published in a magazine, or plans made available through some fashion before the original NEAT, which was 2000. So any airplane that was designed and kitted, designed and published, designed and plans made available before September of 2000 is eligible for the contest.
So I could bring my funky chicken.
You could bring a funky chicken. If you had a mud duck, okay. The only thing we are restricting a little bit is that we don't want glow conversions. It had to be an airplane that was designed specifically for electric before 2000. And that pretty much says anything that the old Hobby Lobby used to sell, not the craft store, the old hobby-lobby.com, which does not exist anymore.
So let me jump in there. The first time I went to your show, I was the marketing person for Hobby Lobby, and I don't know if this was the first or second show I'd ever gone to like this with a whole team of people. But man, it was very exciting. And the thing that I always have stuck in my memory is Mike Hines flying the Huckbine, and the sound that reverberated off the hills as it
Oh, yeah.
screamed across the flight line. It was just so cool.
It is. When it's quiet there are airplanes that certainly dominate, even though they're supposed to be quiet.
Right.
Ducted fans obviously can be a little bit noisy, at least back in the day when we had 5-blade rotors and 6-blade rotors. We don't have the whoosh that we have now in the ducted fan, but certainly pusher prop airplanes, when they echo through that valley, we get the right conditions. Oh, it's just nice and weird at the same time to hear, because it's supposed to be a quiet event. It's supposed to be electric, and it can be rather noisy at times.
Yes. Those were the good old days. Sending out good thoughts to Jim Martin, who passed on a year or so ago, and
I still
always
talk to Mike Hines every once in a while. He catches me on RC groups, and we'll talk by phone, whatever. But anyway, that nostalgia contest that we're having is going to be the bulk of the noontime demo. The guys do not have to fly their airplanes at the show, but they must have proven that it flew either by a photograph or by an affidavit from from somebody to be eligible for the contest.
And you have T-shirts ready for this year?
Oh yeah, in fact, I was supposed to pick them up last week, but I was away. They are ready. T-shirts, hats, and sweats, and are all ready. I just got to go down to my vendor that's on only about 20 minutes away from me and pick them up. Great. And we'll have some swag for the guys. Went to Cali Graphics to get a 25-year patch made for, well, not patch, but decal, peel and stick decal that'll be free to all the registered pilots. Awesome. And then we'll sell extras in the store. I've got my usual guys from Connecticut Silent Flyers. They are helping me with some additional Neat Fair 2024, but 25-year stuff. We're getting flailing man, right. Those blow-up flailing man guys that'll say Neat 25 on it, or Neat 2024 or 25 year. And we're going to have a special contest for that also. We're going to have a demolition derby that will involve those flailing guys. They're going to be about 100 feet apart. And
we should dedicate those to Crash Hancock.
Yeah,
that was his thing.
But you'll be able to fly a fairly small airplane. Basically, we say like the old Park Zone Trojan or smaller 3-cell airplane, and you'll fly the figure 8s around the men, and try and accomplish 10 laps without crashing either into the men, the ground, or another airplane. And the survivors over maybe a couple of rounds will win some sort of prizes that the Connecticut Silent Flyers are doing. Every year, it certainly takes a village to raise a child, and it takes more than a village to run the Neat Fair. And like I said, I have help from outside the clubs, outside my club to help for many things. But in addition is that when something needs to get added, they don't come to me and say, will you do this? They say, no, we'll do it for you. We're not going to put any more on you. Right. Awesome. We will do this for you. So, like I said, the Connecticut Silent Flyers have generously donated their time and their, in fact, investment in some of this stuff over the years. And they're doing this year for the 25-year with the flailing guys to advertise. Awesome. Come and buy my tacos or whatever, So
and those things aren't cheap. So.
No, they're not. I'm, they're donating them to us. They're not going to keep them once they're done. They're going to give them to us. So I got to find room in my trailer for it.
Let's talk about your Hobby King affiliation with the show.
Okay, so many years ago, I don't know the exact time, but it was probably around 2010 or slightly earlier. Stuart Warren was who had recently been hired in Hobby King and started to do marketing and product development for them. Had known me actually for some time because he had built some of my airplanes that I had designed through my old company, Model Airtech. Okay. And he came up to me basically over the internet and said, "Hey, Tom," he says, "I really would like some skilled look at some of these airplanes we're working on." And I said, sure, I'd be more than happy to. And of course, he said, well, what do you want in return? I said, well, Stuart, you can't afford me. I said, I would deplete the bank if I actually got paid what I was worth, considering my now 44 years of aerospace experience.
Right.
And been designing models for as longer than that, probably, because since I've been designing models since I've been flying RC models since I was 14. But anyway, so I made an agreement with him that said, look, all I ask is that I get credit when credit is due on any model. And I said, you supply me with foam and beer. I said, give me an airplane, when the airplane I've designed works out and you go to production, send me a production model. And when you're in town, buy me some beer.
I love it.
and I've been happy with that arrangement since it started, mainly because it gives me an outlet besides my own hobby desires. It gives me an outlet to further the hobby with Neat and now with Hobby King. I've been able to do designs. I've been able to catch a lot of problems that would get through in airplanes that guys have been complaining on your group for many, many years from various manufacturers. And I'm trying to stop many of those things from recurring from the various manufacturers that Hobby King deals with on these model airplanes. And more recently, COVID was a bad time for everybody. I mean, we could see even through E-flite and Dynam and Freewing, all of those manufacturers got hurt badly by COVID. I don't know if it was not only the added expense of cost for shipping and that we all saw, and the delays in production because of they were sick. I mean, maybe
Right.
the whole place was sick for all that. I mean, all the things that COVID caused a great strain on the hobby industry, and we saw that. We had the time to work on our airplanes because we couldn't do a whole lot of things because we were,
right.
but we said, well, we couldn't do so much because the stuff wasn't around. So in some reorganization and a sale of the company after COVID, Hobby King is getting stronger again. And I can tell you that I have been very busy with Hobby.
That's good.
When I am very busy, then stuff is coming. And the new owners are very happy with the arrangement, like the other one was. So we're going to try and get some great products out through Hobby King, and it was pretty much COVID was pretty much a part of the reason why I decided to retire from Northrop Grumman after 40 years in 2021. It wasn't fun anymore. It was like, I wasn't around people. I mean, I had my lab. I had to go to work because I had the lab. I had to work in the lab. And at times, it was like it was a ghost town. And I was so used to having not only senior engineers, by me, but I also had, young kids coming in that I was mentoring. And that wasn't happening anymore. And by the middle of 2021, I said, a very influential engineer when I first came to Grumman told me not long after I got there in 79, he said, son, if you have 5 days in a row that you don't want to go to work, it's got to be 5, not 3, not 4, 5 in a row that you do not want to go to work. It's time to find another job. Well, at 63 years old, I wasn't going to go find another job. Right. I said, I'm done. I've got 40 years in this company. I got a decent pension. I said, it's time. Let's do this. And now I can concentrate more on my hobby. And it's been great. I've been doing so. So I've been very happy with that arrangement.
Awesome. Well, I think that gives everybody all the info they need on the show. And once again, down below, there'll be a link, and I'll go and search out all the information that you would need to attend the show and go reach out to Tom or just get all that intel. And thanks so much for bringing this show to life all these years over and over again for all the people that love it so much.
Thank you. I will do it as long as I'm healthy and capable.
All right, everybody. I'm Jim T. Graham with RC Group's Flying Giants and Heli Freak. talking to Tom Hunt with the NEAT Fair 2024. Be sure and join them if you can. Thanks so much for your time, Tom.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Jim.
Bye, everybody.